I'm going to talk to you about working with CloudStack for over 10 years. And this is something Yvette kept emailing me as well. Put the survey in your talk. So here it is, everybody, if you missed the survey. Well, it was kind of my idea, but anyway. So fill in the survey because this is the information we need as a community, as a project to understand how CloudStack is being used, where it's being deployed, and what you want to see where the projects are going. So a bit about me. Who am I? Well, born and raised in the Netherlands. I got 2 sons, 2 pictures because you need to do this nowadays in your talks, right? Pictures of your kids. In my daily work, I'm CTO at Your Online, and I'm a strategic CTO. I do not touch the CLI that much anymore, so it has been a long time since I actually executed an API command towards a CloudStack environment. It has been quite a while, so sometimes I miss it. But I oversee our companies, and I'll get into that in a moment. But I'm a techie. I started my own hosting company back in 2003, and I have been working with open source and technology ever since. So just as John, I'm an open source fanatic. I want to work with open source, and I think this is where we can actually work together and make the world a better place. Working with Ceph a lot since 2008. I used to be a trainer and a consultant for Ceph, and I've been working with CloudStack in 2011. I'm an IPv6 fanatic. You might have remembered from some other talks. Don't get me started about IPv6 because we can have a long conversation about this. So Your Online, it is a global group nowadays. It's an investment firm where we have acquired quite a large amount of hosting companies throughout Europe, and nowadays also in Canada, United States, and we are looking into other geographies as Asia and South America, where we keep expanding our group. But it's very interesting to see that a significant amount of our companies is using Apache CloudStack or is about to deploy Apache CloudStack underneath the infrastructure. You will not see CloudStack as a public offering towards our customers because the product offering we have simply doesn't really require us to use or promote CloudStack in that sense. VPSs, many of our customers simply want a VPS. They don't need a real cloud solution. So there's quite a big market where people just want a single server to run, a virtual machine, and that's it. And we have a UI built around CloudStack where they very easily can deploy just a VM. Because cloud for a lot of people is sometimes just too difficult. Very difficult to consume, to understand. They just want to have a server, an IP address, credentials, and that's it. And we just need to make it work. So how are we using CloudStack? Well, we have 2 large deployments in the Netherlands and in Spain. But I can tell you in 2026, I just approved the CAPEX. We're going to be deploying a new CloudStack deployment in the UK, in Leeds, for the company Hard Internet, one of our companies in the group. We looked at it and we said, oh, we take our blueprint, copy-paste it, and we just ordered the hardware. And I must say, hardware prices are going up. Memory is getting expensive. I was shocked about what's happening in the market around memory. But anyway, it has been ordered, so I'll probably need to fly over to the UK and enjoy some pizza and Coke for a couple of days, getting them up to speed, up and running, and getting it deployed. They need to manage it, but I'll be helping them. So, but how did it all start? Well, back in 2004, I started this company. Well, I co-founded the company, and we had developed our own cloud solution around KVM, our own orchestrator. It was actually dialogue with Bash. Who has ever used dialogue in Bash, writing a Bash script with dialogue? This is old school, right? So we had this dialogue where you went through to deploy a VM. Customers with SSH somewhere, and they could deploy their VM. We said, well, this is nice, but we need something better. We need something else. So our shortlist, of course, OpenStack was on the list. Way too difficult to work with. We couldn't get it working. We tried, we failed. Within a day, we said, okay, discard it. Eucalyptus, I tried, but got it working somehow. But there was something else called Cloud.com, which we also found on the internet. And back in the days, it was 2011, we found Cloud.com, deployed the packages, and we had it up and running within 48 hours. So we had a working deployment. We were like, oh, this is cool. This is really interesting. So I looked in my inbox, 20th December 2011, I signed my individual contributor agreement between Cloud.com and myself, actually start contributing towards the project. This is 14 years ago, so my title says over 10 years because it has been over 10 years since I worked with CloudStack. And actually a couple of days earlier, I sent in my first patch to improve the Ubuntu packages because I'm an Ubuntu fanatic. I used to use Ubuntu for everything. But why CloudStack or why Cloud.com? It just worked. Already 15 years ago, it just worked. Deploy, I want a virtual machine, or I want to get an instance, as we call it, and it deployed and it worked. We never got this working with other projects. It was just too easy to get it up and running. And, well, the rest is history, because many other patches followed in the years to come. Going back a bit, my first patch, back in December 2011, our first production deployment in February 2012, for one of our customers. We built a fairly small private cloud deployment, not that big, but well, we had it up and running as our, let's say, POC, but also called a production because we could charge somebody for it. Citrix donated cloud.com to the ASF. It became an incubator project. The release of 4.0, still incubator because that's how the ASF sets it. And then we graduated as a project, and we had our first CCC in Santa Clara. Somewhere in the middle, I also went to Santa Clara because Citrix had an event. I don't know anywhere what it was. I tried to find it in my email inbox. I could not find, but I flew over somewhere in 2011, 2013 to Citrix in the US, and they had their own cloud event. I think Wei was there as well. Is he in the room right now? Because I just met him. You were there as well, right? No? Oh, I thought so. Anyway, so and then fast forward to 2025. We're here in Milan, and we had the release of 4.22. A lot of things happened in the meantime, but not a lot of things have changed in 15 years. If you still look at the fundamentals, how CloudStack works, it's still the same. And this is interesting. Well, I'll get back to you in a moment about this. So, 2015, just creating slides on my laptop, building a public cloud with Ceph and Apache CloudStack already, giving the same talk for more than 10 years, telling you on what you can do with Ceph and with CloudStack. Because I think this is a golden combination. So what did I do in 15 years? Lots of work on the packaging, Ceph integration, much of the IPv6 work, VX and BGP integration, battle testing it, various other fixes. But there's also a lot of important, I think, non-code contributions. Being here, talking with you. But the same goes the other way around, that you are here talking with the rest of the community. Spreading the word at conferences and being present on mailing lists, helping others, getting started or answering questions, because that's how we build a better community. But this keynote should not be about me, and it's not about me. But it was a short introduction on how we got here. CloudStack is free to use. Yes, it is. But nothing is free in this world, is there? Well, maybe you could say, tonight, the beer's for free. I don't think so. Somebody else will be paying for the beer. So if you want to use CloudStack, and I think this is something which a lot of companies or users see with open source, they think, hey, this is free, I'll just take it, I'll build my company, and I'll go to the mailing list and saying, I'm missing this feature, build this feature for me. Well, that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. Because it is a solid foundation underneath your company, CloudStack. But they require investments. So you as a company using CloudStack, you have a responsibility to also invest in this project, making it better every day, and this can be in code contributions or non-code contributions, just making sure it stays a healthy project, investing in the project in various ways. Because you can invest time or money, but actually time is money. Contribute, spreading the word. Maybe you can partially allocate a developer from your company. It can be all kinds of things, UI fixes, smaller fixes. And I've seen this many, many times in other projects as well, where you have developers and they say, well, I don't dare to open a pull request because it's just way too difficult. Where do I start? Well, it can sometimes be a single line where you say, hey, there's this if statement which can be improved, or there's a function which you're no longer using. I can remove this. Take small baby steps. But we as a community need to make sure that we welcome these people. When they send their first pull request, we say, hey, thank you for your pull request. Thank you. This looks great. And we'll approve. It's a very big milestone for a lot of people to get their first commit into a big project. And not only with CloudStack, I see the same with Ceph or with other open source projects. A lot of people simply don't dare to do so. I talk with many companies and they say, well, yeah, we have these custom packages for CloudStack. I say, well, why didn't you send a pull request? Yeah, well, we didn't know if it would work, or yeah, well, all kinds of excuses and reasons. But if you look at why they're not doing it, because they think it's scary for them. So help other users. So this is also if contributing. If you see a pull request coming in, help them comment on it and say thank you and get this pull request in. But if you're thinking about sending your first PR, it can be documentation, it can be a UI fix, it can be a typo, anything. Just get started, send something back, and this way we keep improving your projects. So help others on the mailing list, on Reddit, on GitHub, anywhere, if they have a question. The smaller the question, maybe the answer is just a single line, but that is fine. Because we do this together. Again, nothing is free in this world. Yes, you can download CloudStack, get the packages getting up and running, but if you want to use this, you need to return something in a different way, which is your time, and time is money. Because only the sun rises for free, right? No? There's more for free? Tell me. Your time's for free. So you work for nothing. That's fine. Interesting, interesting. Time. Oh, there's some. Who else says his time is for free? Because I think, well, time is the ultimate currency, right? That's it. There's a finite amount of time, and you have to allocate it. And well, you need money to survive in this capitalistic world. Without money, it becomes pretty difficult to get here, to get a hotel room, anything. Well, but if you work for free, well, you're welcome. I'll send you my contact details. Anyway. So, being called a cheater, this was an interesting one. I had to go into the talk. So there was a bug in this VR. I don't know exactly anymore. I think it was something around DHCP allocations not working, and the VR crashed, and it would mean that whenever the DHCP lease would run out or expire on the VMs, they could not renew their lease anymore. So the pressure was on to fix it. I was working, for the whole day and the night, and then the text coming in. Like, no, at 3 in the night. Who's working at the office at 3 in the night? Well, I am. Nobody works at an office at 3. Well, some people do. So, are you seeing someone else? One of the texts while I was had my editor open. I said, no, we're no longer together. No. It has been a while now, but no. This stuff also happens. Anyway, what's there to come for CloudStack? And if let's say we look forward another 10 years, where are we going? Any ideas, any input? Where do you think the project will be in 10 years? And I know there are ideas, but nobody's talking yet, so I'll just wait until somebody starts talking. Still around. Okay. What will change in the coming 10 years? Sorry? Federated sovereign clouds. Okay. Any other suggestions maybe on the technical stuff? What are we going to change in CloudStack in the coming 10 years? Infrastructure. Okay. Because I'm not expecting a revolution anymore. I think we're past that point. We have been talking about clouds for 15 years now, and CloudStack hasn't changed that much. If you look at the other projects, they haven't changed that much. I expect there will be evolution going on in the coming 10 years. So CCC in 2035? Probably. We'll have another one. Where? I don't know. Which release? Will we have released 5 already in 10 years? I hope so. But it's just a number, right? It's just a number. But it will be evolution. Because in 10 years, CloudStack will still be this very solid foundation for a lot of companies. We are still seeing companies adopting, jumping on the CloudStack train and just going on. Once you start working with it, you're not going to rip it out that easily. So you'll be running with it easily for 10 years. And VMs will still be there. Containers will not take over the world. And this is a bold statement, but we have seen containers around for a very long time. I know when Docker first came in, everybody needed to use Docker. Anything you did, you saw Docker everywhere. Now, well, it's still there, but Podman is taking over, others have taken over. Containers found their place, but it's not the solution. If I look on my LinkedIn, I see quite a lot of people posting saying that Kubernetes is just too difficult. Go back to a VM because it's way easier to run your service. The whole cloud repatriation, I see people saying that, well, I just run a single VM and I run my whole startup company on a single VM and it just works. I just deploy my application. The Kubernetes bill used to be very high and they just went back to this Linux server with a database and their application and that's it, and it just works. So we see these cycles, but VMs have been a very stable part of infrastructure for a very long time. So I do think they will still be there in 10 years. Containers will have found their place and they will just coexist together. It's not a question of which one to choose. They will coexist and probably maybe something else will come up. The serverless, well, I don't know. I don't know if that will really take off or it's just a commercial incentive from a few big companies. I don't know. But CloudStack just works and we need to make sure it still works in another 10 years. Well, we do have a couple of challenges ahead. We're aging. So, who's under 25 here? 2, 3, 4. Awesome. But there's not a lot of hands under 25. 15 years ago, I used to be under 25, and the audience would have had a lot of people under 25. And this is a challenge I see with many open source projects. I was in Berlin last week at a CEF conference, and I looked around and I asked the same question, and not a lot of hands went up with people being under 25. And I do think this is one of the challenges we need to face, is that we have an older generation, and we at some point will retire. Some will retire in 10 years, others in 20 years, but this will go on. But we are aging, and it's not unique to CloudStack. I saw John's just nodding, but I think others maybe see the same. And I see the same challenge with our companies. If we have an application open for a system engineer, networking engineer, or some other engineer, people in their 40s and 50s apply for these jobs. And no longer people in their 20s, or even 18, 19-year-olds. When I started my company more than 20 years ago, I had a lot of people of 21, 22 working, even 18, 17, working at my company, working engineering and trying to learn. But students are being taught to use public cloud resources. I get these resumes in AWS certified, Azure certified, Google certified. That's what we see. Oh, that's what I see. They're all being certified by commercial vendors. We see happening at universities, at schools. It's all being taught to use just to consume, because this is what they're being taught. Get the credit card, just fill in the credit card details, and that's it. You don't have to worry about anything. Just keep sending the money. Just keep sending the money, and it will just work. So they want to work with Kubernetes, which is fine. But you just fill in, click, 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 deploy Kubernetes. You get your API key, and you're good to go. But you have no idea what's going on anymore. So the essential skills and knowledge to build a cloud environment are missing nowadays in younger generation. I don't want to be sounding old. I'm 39 now, so some might say I'm old or not old yet, but I don't want to sound like an old guy, grumpy guy here telling you that the younger generation doesn't know what they're doing anymore. But I think this is a fundamental thing I see happening in many industries, that we're missing the fundamental knowledge, because, again, it's just filling in the credit card number and that's it. Because, yeah, you use Terraform to deploy something on the big three and you just have working applications. That's it. But we need to attract younger talent. So I think this is a challenge for CloudStack, is getting younger talent. So I'm really happy that we have people under 25 here in the room. Really great that you're here. But we need to keep attracting younger talent, make them enthusiastic about working with open source, telling them why it works. Because, yes, this is just too easy. It's just too easy. It just works. You don't need to spend nights anymore getting stuff up and running. It just works for you. But you get locked in pretty quickly, because they need to learn Linux. It's an essential piece of knowledge which I see lacking with many engineers. And we've seen this before, right, on LinkedIn and other places. Learn Linux first before doing anything else. A lot of people just start at, let's say, Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible is even too difficult. It's just too difficult with Ansible. Why would you debug this? So before you do anything else, learn Linux. I cannot stress this enough. Make sure you really understand how it works. So you need to understand the fundamentals, or make sure that the people within your companies understand these fundamentals. And if they don't, just make sure you teach them first, because before you do anything with CloudStack, you need to understand how Linux works, really to the bottom. So I asked ChatGPT, because that's what you do nowadays, right, to get this tag cloud. Well, you make it a challenge. You ask a couple of you people working, have you ever used printf, or have you ever used less and touch and all these kinds of commands? And you'll probably get quite a lot of answers. I don't know. I'd never used these commands before. Have to write bash scripts to do stuff. Because when we make sure they understand these fundamentals, we can build better cloud environments. Once you understand how it works, you appreciate CloudStack much better. We talk a lot about how CloudStack needs to be easier to deploy, but we can also say that we have a group of people trying to deploy it who simply do not understand how they should deploy this. And if we make it too easy, does that really make it a better journey for them? I don't know. That's something up for debate and to discuss. So give them bare metal again. I bet if you give a lot of students just a bare metal box, say, hey, I want Apache Web Server on here, I want my website on here. They'll struggle. They'll struggle. But when was the last time you actually installed a bootloader? I want to see a few hands. Who installed a bootloader in the last 6 months? Oh, okay. Good. Yesterday. Yeah. Okay, great. But I would say if you go to many universities, this will not happen. Because they get a virtualized environment, they just get a VM deployed. But give them the USB stick and just a bare metal box and say, good luck. Good luck. Next week I want to have a running web server on here with a hello world page. It will take a bit of time maybe, but that's how you learn. That's how you learn. Learning the hard way, understanding how it really works. But the same goes for networking. Networks are still a challenge, right? Often the network is just blamed for everything. Network engineers and system engineers, they never talk. And we try to do DevOps, right, where they would do networking and Linux all at the same time, and also using Ansible, because networking, we'll use AI. That's what all the network vendors now tell you. They have AI-powered switches and routers. They do all their magic for you. I can tell you, it's still just typing BGP neighbors into your routers and typing in VLAN numbers and all the stuff. It's still the same. And on Monday, there was a power outage in a data center in Amsterdam. One of the feeds went down for 51 seconds. And luckily, we have equipment there. And I asked our engineers, well, nothing happened because all redundant connected. But the amount of BGP neighbors which went down to our equipment because a single power feed failed. And there was, okay, that can happen. But then I went to a website called tweakers.net. There's a few Dutch people here will know. I read the comments. And everybody said, well, it's redundant. Why does it fail? Well, because if you don't understand the fundamentals of why stuff can still fail, well, it's redundant. And this is what I find shocking. If I read on news websites or on LinkedIn, I see the comments, the in-depth technical knowledge keeps going down. Because we are just sending euros towards the US, so John, for your economy, just converting them to dollars, and that's it. Because we do not invest anymore in the knowledge. Same goes for this tag cloud. You need to be able to understand all these kinds of things to deploy a cloud. So learn the fundamentals before you start with CloudStack. Don't jump towards it straight away. And actually this morning I opened LinkedIn and I saw somebody saying the same about Kubernetes, and he said the same thing, learn Linux before something else. And this is a trend I keep going on. So when was the last time you actually performed an HTTP request using Telnet? Did it? Well, last week. Okay, last week. But it's an interesting exercise. A Telnet to a website, port 80, and then type the request, hit enter, and voila, there's the HTML. But it's not that difficult. Or send an email through SMTP. It's this stuff. And maybe I'm old. Maybe I'm nerdy. I don't know. But it's the stuff you appreciate things much more if you understand how it actually works. And remember, it's always DNS. It's true, right? It's always the DNS. Amazon, it was DNS. Cloudflare going down yesterday. I think DNS was was Tuesday was impacted. It is just always DNS. And if you say it's not, it's always. But again, this is a fundamental thing. You need to understand how DNS works. Even with CloudStack, if you just say magically host names pop up and they work and they resolve to an IP address, well, how does it work? Understand how it works because you appreciate the project so much better. And I think as a developer, if you want to work on a project like this, if you understand these fundamental technologies much better, you can write better code because you understand what you're doing. You can be a brilliant developer writing the best code, but if you do not understand what you're writing it for, then the code might be useless. So the domain-specific knowledge, understand what you're writing it for, what it's supposed to do, what the output needs to be, and then you get much better code. But are there opportunities? Well, I think so. There's quite some opportunities. He's one of them. But let's go to the other slide, the European Union. I think that we're seeing a big trend here where, and you can debate whether it's going to happen yes or no, but the cloud exit for many, many reasons. John talked about it. Cloud repatriation from the big cloud vendors, it becomes very expensive. And many of you probably followed from Basecamp, where they did the whole cloud exit. The CTO wrote some brilliant posts about it. But data sovereignty has become a very hot topic in the EU. I think everybody within the EU or even outside the EU and not being in the US can say that it has become a hot topic. And I think it's a good thing that we challenge each other again and saying, hey, do we really need to use these public vendors? And of course, the big names, AWS, Azure, and GCP, and 365, it's great to use, but it's a pretty big lock-in. And it's one of the reasons I think that we're seeing this drain of knowledge happening with generations. Why would you actually learn the fundamentals? Because just working with the public cloud, you can still make a really great salary and it's pretty easy to work with. No longer getting text in the middle of the night because a hard drive failed. No, it's very easy. Somebody else will fix it for you. But this is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we don't do something about this, we will stay in this cycle. So we need to focus. But CloudStack can play a very significant role in the cloud's exit strategy. But just CloudStack needs to be boring and reliable. We just need to make sure it just keeps working. And I think that CloudStack for delivering VMs is already there. But we need to integrate it much more. Accounting, authorization, billing, logging, monitoring, including it in many, many other things. One of the beautiful things about a public cloud, I get one portal, one account where I can go and I can deploy all my resources and I get one invoice. Well, sort of like one invoice depending on where you go, but you get this single environment for all your resources to deploy and you just get your invoice. So CloudStack just needs to work with many other platforms to integrate much neater and more tightly. Deploying VMs needs to be ultra smooth, just work and keep up with the trends on how to deploy, how to provision these VMs, and there's a lot of things going on, GPU allocations, maybe some more networking features, but those are technical details. I think we'll figure those out along the way when we are going forward. But integration in other platforms will be very interesting to see what's going on. Please communicate neatly with these tools and platforms. There's a few billing platforms here, but let's say if we go through these, who needs more monitoring within CloudStack, more insights? Okay, and on the billing part, because I think the billing part is still a pretty challenging thing if you want to run a public cloud service, and that's also one of the reasons why we don't do it at the moment, because billing is challenging. And but there are many challenges. But why? Well, if you have existing platforms which do your billing, then also integrate your CloudStack billing in there. You can take a billing platform just specifically for CloudStack, but if you have an existing billing environment and get CloudStack connected, getting data from the usage server, parsing it, and then getting some invoice towards a customer, that's sometimes a challenge. But just remember, CloudStack just works. I think it still just works. Or who disagrees that it doesn't work? Otherwise, you would have been here, right? No, no. And I was in Berlin last week, and they had this survey on how many users are using Ceph underneath OpenStack. And I thought, oh, I need this number as well. So I made myself a promise to get some hands. Who is using Ceph underneath their CloudStack deployment? So I see quite some hands. And there was a discussion on the mailing list earlier this week about Fiber Channel, iSCSI, and NFS. Who's using NFS? Okay, and let's say iSCSI. Okay, anybody with Fiber Channel? One left. Ah, two left. Okay. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it, to be honest. But that's great to see you can still have these various choices, because in the end you just need to deliver a cloud deployment where CloudStack just works. So Yvette told me again to put this in there, fill in the survey, make sure you fill in the survey, and I hope to see you again in 10 years at the next CCC, but then I do hope that when I ask the question again, who's under 25, that I get more hands than 4. So I want to ask you all that we keep working on this project, but making sure we're not going to be the dinosaurs sitting in the room again in 10 years. I'd love to see you again in 10 years, making sure we attract younger talent, get them into the project, help them. So if they open their first pull request, help them, be nice, be kind, assist them. If they send an email to the mailing list where you think, what's this? Remember, it might be his first email to a mailing list, or I hope to see more diversity than just male here, because it's a pretty male environment. But that's my assumption here. If this person is sending an email, help this person. I think that's very good. That's the way we can build a healthier community and make sure CloudStack is still relevant in the coming 10 years. So a few people I know are just deploying CloudStack, and they want this project to be there another 10 years. They cannot expect the community to do this for them. They will also need to invest in the project in various ways. So say it's a healthy project. Maybe in the coming 20 or 25 years, I do expect that in 25 years there will still be a CloudStack deployment around running. The same goes with the Apache web server. It has been along for a very long time. It's boring and reliable, but it does a lot of work. So, thank you.